The last speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is the lady who organized this successful meeting, Helga VanderVeken, director of Argus.
Ladies and gentlemen, also ladies and gentlemen in the other room, good evening. Last year, Argus invited WWF to organize these events together. And you might wonder why. Argus aims to create awareness for the needs of a development with respect to people and to planet. And we also want to stimulate people to take positive action in this context. And this initiative wants to contribute to both these goals. But for a very specific project, the preservation of Virunga and its wildlife, and this for the benefit of the local people. I must admit, I'm, as many of you, am passionate about Virunga. And I have the privilege that I can express this passion in my job. My fascination for the region goes back to the 80s, long before the crisis broke through in eastern Congo. I saw a documentary about the Virunga National Park on the BBC. And as an ecologist, I knew of its existence, of course, and of its value, but I had never realized its astonishing beauty and its immense richness in biodiversity. My dormant love for Virunga got a little boost in 2009 when I bought the book already mentioned but never named, Virunga, The Survival of Africa's First National Park, and it's written by Marc Longhi and Emmanuel de Merode. Reading it, I started to realize how vital the park is for the local population, but also how vulnerable it is under pressures of all kinds, as you mentioned tonight. And then 2 years ago, and Ronald already mentioned, I had the opportunity to join WWF on a trip to some of their projects in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And in North Kivu, we talked to Emmanuel de Merode and with Aimé, Jérôme, Pierre and Innocent, members of the team of Emmanuel who accompanied us to the mountain gorillas. We also met Thierry Botson, who coordinates the WWF projects in Goma and is here tonight. Welcome, Thierry also. And we met some inhabitants of Goma who work in the different WWF projects that Geert already mentioned. All these people, and we lived here, not in the lodge, it was not already finished, so we slept in this kind of accommodation. But all these people, they testified of a great and for some almost superhuman effort to secure a future for the park and for the lives of the people of North Kivu. Despite the enormous insecurity in the region, despite the risk of their lives, despite the many and great problems each of them encounters day after day, they keep investing their energy for the conservation of Virunga. As you know, Virunga is listed as World Heritage. Ladies and gentlemen, the protection of this park is not only the responsibility of the local population, of Emmanuel, of Thierry, of the ranger, of the Congolese. We can all contribute to the preservation of the park. And I sincerely hope that after this evening you will be convinced that you have to. This is my favorite. But WWF is also active in the Lac-Main-Dombe region Mark showed you, and has a station in Malebo. The Lac-Main-Dombe region is a vast landscape of forest and savanna, where people live in remote and fairly isolated villages. Among other problems in this region, there is pressure on the forest because of burning practices to keep the savanna open as pastures for the cattle, but also because of the production of charcoal and the hunting of bushmeat. Nevertheless, the forest is inhabited by a healthy population of 7,500 bonobos, discovered just a few years ago in 2005 by a local NGO. And KBC, Argus and WWF worked out a Triple P project that wants to be relevant for the local people and worked out in cooperation with them, relevant for the preservation of an important ecosystem, relevant for the protection of the bonobo, an endangered species, and relevant in the context of climate change. The project gives answers to the local pressure on the forest. We will provide at least 5 villages with a plantation of native trees for the production of charcoal or makala. We will compensate the local people to stop burning certain patches of savanna on the edge of the forest. Fruit-bearing trees, an ideal food source for the bonobos, will be the first to colonize the abandoned savanna, and after some time the forest will regenerate. The fruit might also attract antelopes in fall to the edge of the forest, a possible source of meat for the villagers. KBC and Argus provide the funds needed, Thomas Leijzen already mentioned. The proceeds are beyond expectations, and I hope that pretty soon we can start planting. And I wish to thank my colleague, I didn't see him yet, but I know he's here, Jan Belien of KBC, for his very good support for this project. Ladies and gentlemen, let's come back to Virunga. Dirk Drouwlands will come to some conclusions, but before I give him the floor again, I would like to thank Emmanuel de Merode for his enormous efforts to save Virunga. Also, many thanks to all the other people who were here on the stage for their appealing contribution, to Tanguy Dumortier for his beautiful film, and to KBC for the hospitality and technical support, to NAC Le Vif et Terre d'Afrique for their promotional support, to WWF for the fine cooperation, and to all of you also in the other room for your attention. Dirk, the floor is yours for the last words.
Thank you, Helga, and thank you again for this excellent organization of this interesting evening. I'll be very short, very brief. You can all judge from yourself from what you've seen and heard how important it is. It's a complex story in a complex region with very complex politics, but the park is fascinating. The park is also vulnerable, and the fact that the park is still there is strongly linked to the word, a word that has been used in several speeches today in different contexts, passion. You find passionate people everywhere, even here. People that never have been in the Virunga get passionate by what they see. You have a lot of passionate people over there who come from different angles and still manage to sort of use the passion that they have in their bodies to try and preserve the park locally. Very, very complex story that needs a lot of people, lots of involvement to be able to keep it as it's going. If you want to support the park and its surroundings, you can either go to the site of WWF, you can go to the site of Argus, you can go to the guerrilla site of Emmanuel. You can probably be a little help by buying the book of Mark and Emmanuel, who is going to be on sale here in the hall, and have it autographed if you're a bit lucky. You can also buy the film there in a DVD version, the film of Tanguy that we've seen a part of it before. And well, that might guide you to how you can be of use to the conservation of Virunga National Park. Now my last words would be to guide you to the walking dinner that's being offered by Argus in the big hall here, where there'll be lots of opportunities to talk about what we've learned today. And I thank you again for your presence here tonight. Thank you very much.